right, so you're getting ready for that event, but you're short on time. You don't have time to iron your entire shirt. You're going to wear a sports jacket, but here's the deal, is just iron the collar, the front placket, and the cuffs. When you throw that jacket on, nobody is going to see the body. Just keep the jacket on throughout the night. Boom, I just saved you 5 to 10 minutes of ironing. Now, what if you don't have an iron handy, but the woman you're with, she's got a hair straightener? Well, guess what? You can use that hair straightener to iron the collars and your cuffs. So I know you could probably get away with a dress shirt only or a button down, but the problem is you got to iron the entire button down. With a sports jacket, you leave this thing on, nobody knows that it is not ironed with the sleeves, with the arm, with the back, because all you have to iron and make sure is looking good is the front placket and the collar, the cuffs as well. But yeah, nobody knows that underneath this thing is completely wrinkled, right? The back area, the sleeves, which are the worst. And a little thing right here, I always keep a pocket square in the pocket. Even if I don't want to show it, I can pull it up right there. Instant class with the look. Next up, learn the best way to roll your shirt sleeve. The first method is the AFA roll, also known as the forearm roll. Very quick, very easy. Roll the shirt once, using the cuff as your guide. Then simply roll again. This is a very casual looking roll, and its only problem is it's easy to come undone throughout the day. Next, we have the basic shirt sleeve roll. It starts out the same as the AFA roll, rolling the cuff twice. The only difference is you're going to roll it a third time. This roll sits a little bit higher up the arm, and it won't come undone as easily as the AFA roll. Next up is the high roller. It starts the same as both the AFA and the basic roll, but instead of stopping at 2 or 3 rolls, you're going to roll it a fourth time to well above the elbow. This roll looks good if you've got muscular arms, and it's very useful for work situations when you want to keep your sleeves nice and clean. The fourth roll on this list is my favorite, the master roll. For this one, you will put the cuff further up the sleeve, then fold the excess fabric over it. This results in a very clean looking roll, one that will not come undone throughout the day. And best of all, when you want to unroll your shirt sleeves, one quick pull of the cuff is all it takes. Finally, we have the old school garter roll. Not seen very often, this uses sleeve garters, although you can substitute with a rubber band. Pull the garter partway up your arm, then slide the whole sleeve up the desired height. Cover the garter with the excess fabric and you're done. Though not technically a roll, this method creates a very clean look that won't fall down easily. This is a very simple way to get rid of excess fabric. If you're wearing a shirt that's a little bit too large around the waist area, then this is going to hide that extra material and fabric. In addition, it just keeps the shirt tucked in a bit longer than normal, just randomly tucking it in. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can tuck your shirt into your underwear. It will keep the shirt in a bit more, but you got to be careful here because you don't want that underwear hiking up and then you'll be known as Captain Underwear. Let's not let that happen. And speaking of collars, don't forget to use a shirt stay. Now, what happens if you only have one shirt stay? You don't have your shirt stays handy. Well, look around. Does somebody have an extra plastic card, maybe an old credit card or expired club membership card? Well, gents, if you have one of these, let's get crafty. Simply cut the card in the shape of a shirt stay. Boom, instantly your collar has bones. It is going to have a nice point to it. Now, as you go to button that shirt, what if you find that one of your buttons all of a sudden is losing its thread? And gents, in a perfect world, you would have an emergency sewing kit, which by the way, at most nicer hotels, they will have at the front desk. And I would encourage you, if you have time, to go ahead and sew the button back on. But in the case you're in a pinch and you don't have time, you can use a bit of super glue, clear nail polish, or even hairspray to keep the thread from unraveling. You can also use this hack pretty much anywhere on a garment that has a loose thread that you don't want to be pulling on because it could ruin the entire thing. Now, it is a temp fix, so when you get the time, fix that loose thread properly or you're going to have issues. Now, what if you're wearing a necktie or a bow tie and you need to button that top button and you find, you just need a ½ inch? Well, you could try to force it and choke yourself. Or you could use a safety pin and give yourself a ½ inch of breathing room, be much more comfortable, and cover it up with the necktie, the bow tie. Nobody is going to notice. Now, if I'm wearing a jacket, again, looking in the mirror, 3 quick things I look for. First up, the shoulders should be laying flat. Occasionally when a jacket's been on a hanger for a long time, or if it's just coming out of a suitcase, the shoulders can sometimes lay with a little bit of crumpling. And I am assuming that you've got a jacket with a good fit, so take a few seconds when you put it on to make sure it's laying flat on the shoulders. Next up, if it's a dark jacket or a dark shirt, you want to check the shoulders for any flaking. Now, if you don't normally deal with dandruff, it may not be an issue, but sometimes a few days after vacation, you may notice flaking, and that's probably because you sunburnt your scalp, and now your skin up there is flaking. But in any case, you want to make sure it's not building up on the shoulders of your jacket or your dark colored shirt, because it's just a bad look and something you can avoid by ensuring your shoulders are brushed off. And the final jacket rule, make sure it's buttoned when you stand, unbuttoned when you sit. Now, the buttoning rules for a jacket, if it's 2 buttons, the majority of jackets out there, it's just going to be the top button. The bottom button, we never button. Now, the reason being, besides tradition, is that most jackets are designed and cut in a way they are going to best fit the body with that button unbuttoned. Now, if it's a 3-button or more jacket, it's going to be the middle buttons that you want to have buttoned. The top button and the bottom button, in this case, are going to be optional. Make sure you've got the gig line set. The gig line is an imaginary line that aligns with the placket, your belt buckle, and the fly of your trousers. Anyone that serves in the military knows what I'm talking about. It was something that was looked for in inspection. And overall, when you're piecing these 3 items together, getting that gig line gives an overall better aligned look. So if you've got some older leather dress shoes, you've probably noticed you got a lot of creasing around the toe box. In many cases, this is a sign that the leather has been warped because of water damage. Now you may be thinking, hey, I take care of my shoes. I'm not walking through storms getting these things all wet. That's not what I'm talking about. Water damage can happen from the inside. When you sweat, when you wear these shoes 8 to 12 hours a day and you don't let them dry properly. And as you can tell, even I'm guilty of not always using a shoe tree. So how to get the creases out? Well, gentlemen, to do this, you're going to need a heat gun, which can be found at pretty much any hardware store. Now, making sure you've got a shoe tree in the shoe or you've got it stuffed with newspaper, you're going to use the heat gun carefully to go ahead and work on the creases to get them to relax. Again, the key is to be careful because a heat gun can damage your shoes. And if you don't want to use a heat gun, make sure to use a hairdryer. Make sure it's got a concentrated point and it's got a high setting. It will take a little bit longer, but it can accomplish the same thing. In a nutshell, by heating the leather, you're forcing it to relax and then giving it a form to mold upon. You're getting rid of the creases by simply allowing it to work and to mold around the shoe tree. So I ran into this issue a few years back, was at my brother's wedding, and his wife, the bride, insisted that we all had to match, and therefore we had to rent tuxedos. Yes, I know, but hey, it's family. In any case, I had someone pick up the rental for me, and when I tried the shoes on, they were just a little bit too large. So the hack here is to get an instant better fit by using a piece of cardboard. So as you can see here, all you need is a piece of cardboard, a pen, trace the form of the shoe right there on the cardboard. What we're looking to do is create an insert that, as you can see right here, slides right in and lifts the entire foot up by about 1/8 of an inch. Gents, believe it or not, that small amount of cardboard can make a huge difference in how the shoe fits, how the shoe feels. Now, speaking of things that nobody notices, but you still probably need to address, guys, if your shoes smell, let's get that fixed. One of the easiest hacks here is putting a little bit of baking soda in the shoe overnight and then shaking them out, vacuuming them out before you wear them the next day. Another option that's really effective is take that same baking soda, put it into a sock, and then leave it in the shoe overnight. Now, as many of you guys know, baking soda is actually sodium bicarbonate. When you look at it at the microscopic level, it has a porous structure and a mild alkaline pH. This basically makes it perfect for trapping and neutralizing many of the acidic and alkaline compounds that cause odor. It also sucks out moisture, which is the breeding ground for bacteria that causes bad odors. And again, baking soda, really easy to find and incredibly cheap. That being said, if you don't have it, you're in your hotel room, oftentimes they've got those tea bags that nobody's using. Stick a tea bag or two in each of your shoes. It's not going to be as effective as baking soda, but it will pull out a bit of moisture and it will help them smell a little bit better. Oh, and I don't know if you'd call this one a hack, but wear no-show socks versus not wearing socks. Now, I get it, spring, summer, fall, a lot of guys like to show off a little bit of ankle. They feel they run a bit cooler, maybe they like the look, but in any case, use those no-show socks because not only are they going to absorb sweat and better protect your shoes and help them last longer, but those socks are also going to help absorb some of the waste particles coming out of your feet sweat and just help your shoes not smell as bad. One of the ways to make sneakers or shoes really pop is to go with a contrasting lace. So simply replace those old beat up laces that are bringing down your shoes anywhere and put in some new laces. Again, you can replace them with the same exact color. You can go with, right here we have a gray shoe, gray sneaker with the white laces. You could also go with something, hey, you've got a brown sneaker, go with brown laces, going to have less contrast, but you can do this on a variety of different types of shoes. You can do this with boots, tons of different options out there when it comes to laces. Don't ignore them. A very inexpensive way to upgrade your footwear. Wear a shirt. Choose a sweater that complements your build, that builds up the chest, and that frames the face. So first up, going for that V-neck. Now, you can go with a V-neck shirt, V-neck sweaters. Those look great, but anything that has a V like this is going to simply build up the chest more. It's like an arrow pointing down at the chest, and if you've got a decent build, this right here is just going to better complement it. So look for that in your sweaters. Look for it in your t-shirts, any of your garments, even a casual button down. What do we see when you don't wear a tie? You've got that V right there in the front. Now let's talk about framing the face. That's what a nice collar does. Anytime you've got a collar that goes up on the neck, whether that be a polo, whether that be a casual button down, whether that be a sweater with a bit of a collar, all of a sudden you're doing a better job of framing the face. It's kind of like a picture frame on a picture. What does it do? It just accents, it draws in, it gets the eyes to go in the right direction. When you're talking with people, you want them to engage with your face. That's what a collar does. I encourage every guy out there to have a full-length mirror either in your room or near your door. The goal here is before you walk out for the day, you look at yourself up and down, looking to catch anything that's off. Now, obviously, if you spot any wrinkles, stains, or tears, you can take care of it immediately by either spot ironing, cleaning, or quickly changing the garment. But another detail I always look for on a button-down shirt, did I button it up correctly? Seriously, we've all made that mistake. We don't feel it, but when we look at ourselves in the mirror and that collar is misaligned, yeah, we instantly catch that mistake before we walk out the door. Another 2-second detail I look for in the mirror, I make sure that my undershirt isn't showing. Now, usually for me, this isn't an issue as I'm wearing a deep V-neck, but if you're wearing a regular V-neck or a crew neck, in general, you want to make sure you're wearing clothing over it that hides the undershirt. I mean, seriously, that's why they call it an undershirt. Coming out of the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror. First up, check your teeth. Especially after you've just eaten, you want to make sure you don't have anything on them. Next up, look at your eyebrows. Now, ideally, you're trimming these or having your barber trim them every couple weeks. But if you have a few crazy loose hairs, you can simply use a little bit of water to try to get them to hold in place. Or in a pinch, if you've got a bit of lotion, that'll work as well. And when you're washing your hands, yes, spend 20 seconds going back and forth with the soap. But make sure to get under those nails, as there's nothing that makes your hands look more gnarly than long, dirty fingernails. Next up, let's talk about those annoying deodorant marks that you get on a dark t-shirt when you slide it on in the morning. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, hey, put the deodorant on after you put your shirt on, but I'm assuming you made the mistake. You got those white marks all over the dark shirt. Gents, the way to get rid of them is to use a dryer sheet, and here's why it works. So dryer sheets are coated with softening agents and anti-static compounds. This combination right here helps to reduce the static cling that keeps the deodorant particles on the dark colored shirt. Basically, they help that residue release from the clothing. On top of that, a lot of deodorants have waxy or powder ingredients. The softening agents in the dryer sheets have a lubricating effect, and they can help lift these ingredients, again, right off the shirt. What about those annoying yellow stains on your white t-shirts, on your white dress shirts that build up around the collar and around the armpits? Now, you being the smart guy you are, you probably know that sweat and deodorant both have alkaline compounds. This is what normally leads to the yellowing and discoloration of a white shirt. Now, there are some harsh treatments out there. They're effective, but they use some pretty strong chemicals and they can take time. A quick hack that I would recommend is to start to use vinegar in with your whites, and when you notice the staining, use a 50% vinegar, 50% water mixture to spot clean your shirts in and around the collar, the cuffs, and the armpits. Now, vinegar works because it's got an acidic pH, and I also love how it's not a harsh chemical. It's something you're going to find in pretty much everyone's kitchen. Now, this next one seems obvious, but so many guys don't do this, and that is after you get that amazing haircut. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, wow, I look good. Ask your barber, ask your stylist to very quickly take a video of that haircut, go around, take a few pictures, and keep it. Because when you're traveling, 4 weeks from now and you need to get a haircut, it's getting long, and you're with somebody new, you don't speak barber, you don't speak stylist, you can just show them the video of the haircut, say, I loved this, let's go for that. Pictures worth 1,000 words, a video is worth what, 100,000 words? Point being is they're going to be able to see exactly how to cut it next time, and there isn't going to be any confusion. Now guys, really quick, a lot of guys make a mistake. They think that just watching a video like this on YouTube is somehow going to make them an expert. Straight up, gents, you have to take this information and put it into action. And one of the best ways to motivate yourself to take action is to put yourself in a community, in a group of like-minded warriors, taking steps to improve their image, their presence, their presentation, and you can find all of that over at our community at school.com/RMRS. Over in our school community, we've got detailed classes, we host challenges, and you can meet and engage with like-minded men taking steps on a daily basis to become their best self. So gents, instead of saying someday, how about you say day one and join our community? I'm putting the link down in the description, in the comments, or you can just go directly to school.com/RMRS. If you want your expensive fragrance to last longer, to project more, then the first thing you want to do is apply a moisturizer. This should be a neutral moisturizer, an unscented cream. You can use Vaseline as well. Point being is you want to seal up the skin where you're going to apply the fragrance. You see, if you've got really dry skin, it doesn't matter how strong the fragrance is, it's going to evaporate quicker. It is not going to last. So one of the best things you can do is apply that moisturizer, again, in the areas that you're going to wear the fragrance. By taking this one action, you're going to give even relatively weak fragrances the best chance to last and project. Now that first tip was all about taking care of your skin, but don't forget, you can do this within your body as well by drinking more water. It sounds so simple, guys, but this right here can help your fragrance last longer. So in the world of fragrance, a lot of guys confuse sillage with projection. Projection is how a fragrance radiates off a person. Sillage is the scent trail that you leave as you walk through a place. Now, if you want people to remember you, you got a signature scent. Don't be afraid to, once you're fully dressed, spray a couple spritzes on the back of the neck. I find that this is the perfect place to spray if you want to leave an intoxicating scent trail. That being said, applying the fragrance on the skin actually makes sense in a lot of situations. I mean, during the summer, you're going to be hitting the beach, you're going to be taking the shirt off, you want to smell good, then just apply a little bit more on the chest area, maybe on the shoulders, on the forearms. I like to apply on the back of the neck. I find that those are great areas, especially the back of the neck, even in the hair, especially if you've got hair, it will do a good job. Now, some people talk about the alcohol drying out the hair. I think that that is a very minor thing to be worried about, but when you do spray on your hair, this is a great place for it to last longer. And yeah, if you're going to put it on the body, I go 3 sprays in the chest area. Depends on the fragrance. If it's a nuclear fragrance, you're lucky to get half a spray, so you really have to know what you're putting on. But this one right here with a little bit of coconut, love it for the summer. Yeah, I probably 7 or 8 sprays all over the body. This one I just love. Beautiful fragrance. How can it be damaged? Somebody probably stored that fragrance, maybe you, up on a windowsill and sunlight came in. And sunlight is one of the worst things for a fragrance. There are fragrances that lasted, I don't know, 50, 70, maybe even longer. I'm not a fragrance historian here, but I do know that people buy vintage fragrances all the time and love them, but they're stored properly. They are not exposed to sunlight because sunlight, what it does is it goes in and it excites the molecules, causes them to basically break up. It can tear apart the fragrance. And unfortunately, with the alcohol and the oil, it can cause them to basically break up, and it's not a good thing. It can, just really cause the fragrance to, die. I don't know what else to call it. So when storing your fragrances, do not store them on windowsills. Maybe keep the box, put them back in the box, keep them in a cool place. I'm not saying you got to put them in the fridge. Some people talk about that. I mean, it makes sense. It's cool. It's dark, but I don't think if you got an extra fridge. For me, I've got kids and that could just turn out wrong, Now, what about rubbing in a fragrance? That's when you spray the fragrance on and you rub it together. Is this a bad thing? Is it going to hurt the longevity? Is it going to cause the molecules to break down? The answer on that second one is no, but what it does do is it mixes the fragrance and the oils with your own oil, and it can affect basically the way that the fragrance is going to be released. If it's a linear fragrance, meaning that it will smell the same throughout the life of the fragrance, probably not a big deal. But for a more expensive, complex, beautiful fragrance that's going to have different layers to it, it can really ruin the experience. And I know this sounds totally, kind of crazy, but Yeah, spray the fragrance on and let it do its thing. Don't rub them together. It's just bad juju. So have you ever been a bit nervous entering a room? Maybe it was a business or networking event, or maybe a party where you don't know too many people. In any case, here's a 5-step process to making an entrance with intention. First up, do a launch check. Before you enter, roll your shoulders back, lift up your chest, use your phone's camera to check your teeth, then put the phone on silent, slide it into your pocket, and then walk through that door, not stopping in the entrance. Seriously, that's a rookie mistake. Don't clog the entrance. No, just take a few steps into the room. Your normal walking speed or a little bit slower is fine. And next up, pause and scan. You're looking to feel the heartbeat, the energy of the room. Step 4, you want to choose an anchor. This is somebody you know, maybe a friend, the host, or maybe simply that buffet of food and drinks. And then engage. Walk to go start the conversation or grab something to eat. So when it comes to eye contact, a lot of this depends on your culture and the situation. But in general, you want to play in the range of 2 to 4 seconds of eye contact. A second or less can come off as evasive, as if you're hiding something. 5 seconds or more, it comes off as staring and the person is wondering, do you want to start a fight? Or are you just looking to creep them out? So let's get specific. Casual encounters. You're talking with the barista at the coffee shop. 2 to 3 seconds on average if you're having a conversation. Then about 30 to 50% of the time, you're going to be making eye contact. In business settings, especially when you're shaking hands, the eye contact could go a little bit longer, 2.5 to 3.5 seconds. And because you're having more detailed, longer conversations, you want to instill trust, you're probably going to have a little bit more eye contact. We're talking 40 to 60% of the time. Although this will change if you're talking to a group, and in that case, you want to move your eye contact around, specifically to the people you're talking to. And it's key here, especially in a small group, not to ignore anyone, even if you only give them 5 to 10% of your attention. Make sure that you do that so that they know they are seen. Now with friends, you can go a little bit lower. 2 seconds is usually cool. And since usually there's a lot of trust, you can also be making, in general, less eye contact with them. That being said, there is an exception. If your friend is opening up, if you're having a deep, important conversation, more eye contact is warranted. Now, what if you want to signal you're interested in the person? Well, the big difference here is you're usually going to make eye contact a couple times. Now, I'm assuming this is a stranger. Things change if this is someone you know and you got something secret going on. Now, assuming this is a stranger and you're interested, 1.5 to 2 seconds, that's perfect, and it is going to seem, actually for most of us, longer than that. Now the key here is to show you're friendly, and as you're making that eye contact, smile. If they smile back, that's great. If they just look away, they could be a little bit embarrassed, a little bit surprised. But the key part, as many of you guys know, is the second eye contact. Again, we're talking 1.5 to 2.5 seconds. Again, you're going to smile. If they smile back, then they are usually interested. And at that point, the ball is in your court to get up and go start the conversation. Now, speaking of starting the conversation, let's get to the handshake. Now, handshakes nowadays aren't required, especially since COVID. The fist, the elbow touch, those have definitely become a lot more popular. However, most guys are still out there giving handshakes, and you need to know how to give one. Well, the first step to a good handshake is to be the person that offers it. Seriously, so many people who don't know each other in close proximity aren't even introduced, let alone do a handshake. Well, you being the elite man you are, you want to change that. So put your hand out there, and when you do it, where you're aiming to connect with theirs is this space between the thumb and the index finger. What that ensures is that you get a good grip on their hand, and the ability, especially if you have small hands, to clasp it. Now, when shaking someone's hand for the first time, you do not want to squeeze it hard. On a scale of 1 to 10, think a 4 or a 5. Now for us guys, when we're shaking a woman's hand, you want to match her strength. So if she's at a 6, 7, or 8 out of 10, go ahead and match it. And this also applies to men. If you're giving a little bit of a lighter handshake, another guy starts to squeeze yours, you can match his squeeze. Now, in the case you're caught off guard, you give a limp handshake. The dead fish handshake, there's nothing wrong with stopping it. Say, hey, let's do that again. To me, it's fun. It lightens up the situation. It goes to show you're human and that you care about introductions. Handshakes should have about 1 to 2 pumps and go on for 1 to 2 seconds. Look to make eye contact when you shake hands. And the only time you want to keep it a bit longer is if it's a high-stakes situation. You want to show somebody your sympathy, that you care. Maybe you're meeting up with a friend after he lost one of his parents. You simply want to shake his hand, look at him in the eye, maybe even pull him in for a hug. Now, when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I try to immediately pronounce their name right back to them. To better remember their name, I'm also trying to associate it, but if it's a name I'm not familiar with, maybe culturally it's not common, In that case, I always ask a little bit more about the name. Oh, where does this come from? This allows me to hear it again, hopefully to say it again. And if I expect to see this person again to continue the conversation, I'll open up my phone, quickly type it out as I would spell it. Now, if this is a future business contact, somebody you definitely want to stay in touch with, you could actually hand them your phone and have them enter their info. But yeah, separately spelling it out how I would pronounce it, I know helps me a lot and may help you. Gents, I believe it was Dale Carnegie that said a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So you want to get this right. Now this next tip, incredibly powerful, especially in business. And I'll tell you straight up, it's rarely seen nowadays. And that's because it takes time, it takes effort, yet it's this inconvenience that makes it valuable. And I get it, some of you guys are going to skip this one because you don't think it's worth your time, but I know of a couple billionaires that still do it and swear by its effectiveness. Gents, what I'm talking about is the power of a handwritten note, a handwritten thank you. In our incredibly busy world where everyone's texting, everyone's sending out emails, the handwritten letter cuts through the noise. In fact, about a decade ago, I was reminded of its power by a friend of mine, Brett McKay, over at The Art of Manliness. He had pointed out he'd gotten rid of his contact form and instead just simply put up a P.O. box address. If somebody had something to say to him about his website or his work or his writings, they could write him a letter. And guess what? He went from getting 100 messages a day from people complaining, not liking his message, wanting to point out a typo or get him to hire them for something, to nowadays he just gets about 1 letter a day of somebody thanking him for helping to transform their life through his content and information. Now the explanation for this was put forth by Cal Newport over at Deep Work. He was really clear that because there is friction, aka you got to put in some effort to write a letter versus an email or a text which pretty much require nothing, well, that small barrier ensures most people don't do it. And it's because most people don't do it that it becomes valuable. When you write a personal thank you to that customer that just brought you $1,000, maybe $10,000 in business, and let them know what you've done is what less than 1% of people do, and they are going to remember that. Because relationships, whether they're personal or business, are between human beings. And human beings want to feel respected. They want to be seen. And nothing lets a person know they've been acknowledged as you showing them that they are worth your time. All right, Jen, so what did I miss? What would you have added to this video? And if you want more about manners and etiquette, guys, I got you covered. In this video, I talk about opening doors and all the other stuff that I did not cover in this video. So keep watching right here. Boom. Oh, yeah. Go check it out. Oh, yeah.